Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday on the International Day of Peace weekend. And really looking forward to introducing a friend of mine here, Dr. Laurie Levin, who I've had the honor of working with creatively, helping produce some video content to help tell their story, which is a really important story. And over this next hour, there's going to be a great group of guests coming on. You're going to learn a lot about brain health, the neuroscience behind things like peace. And first, I want to introduce Laurie. Laurie had a very successful career, her start in show business. Actually, so successful that she represented people like Madonna and Michael Jackson, who for me is like an avatar. And so it's amazing. When she told me that, I said, "So you touched Michael Jackson?" Yeah, yes. Yeah, it's incredible. So, and moving into, the next chapter of her life, really, she had, kind of an awakening, a spiritual experience, with I think you should tell that story when we get into it. I won't, I'll just tease a little bit about that, but it's really powerful. And it created a firm shift for her to bring spirituality to psychology, which is so important right now. And Laurie is the creator of an app called Here, and Here is really on a mission to ease human suffering by helping to heal trauma. And the app really harnesses some incredible new neuroscience of inner peace, and it's amazing. So happy to have you here, Laurie.
Thank you, Seth.
And I'm going to let
Chef
you
Blaustein, everyone.
Hand it off to you and introduce your guests, and it's going to be a fun hour here.
We are incredibly grateful and honored to be a part of World Peace Weekend. And right in just a couple of hours is going to be this beautiful global coming together and shifting consciousness. And I want to say, after Amma's beautiful words, that it's not enough to just pray for world peace. We have to together, please, imagine the new paradigm. As we imagine it, we create it, whatever that means for you, because in that reimagining is the gift of us taking us to the next level. And with that being said, that is the whole fundamental, foundational gift of this app, that it is founded on the premise that from our high brain, we can make unbelievable things happen. That if we're constantly looping and perseverating, shaming or blaming ourselves or shaming or blaming another, we're locked into our primitive brain. And our primitive brain is not where we're going to get to reimagining and shifting consciousness toward its maximum expansion. So let me bring on our first guest, because she will talk a little about this, but she's also a titan in her own right. Nichol is right there. Oh, good. So we have people from all over the world. Nichol, I would love you to share with everybody your journey and how you heard your call as the founder of Transformative Tech Lab and all the great work you've done in shifting consciousness in tech. Please.
Okay, great. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me. And, I really believe in the product and the app that you've developed because of my background and how I came to this. So just to give a little bit of a framework for everyone before I say my personal story, that I am the co-founder and the executive director of the Transformative Technology Lab and Conference and Academy. And this is a community of entrepreneurs and innovators who are leveraging tech for the benefit of human consciousness, specifically to help people with mental health, emotional well-being, and human thriving. So we look at everything from stress, anxiety, depression, things that help people with social emotional skilling, all the way to, things that can help elevate human consciousness via technology. And so, and how I came to it is that I was working in a video game company. I was running the operations for World of Warcraft China. And then I went on a meditation retreat and had an awakening. And I actually went just to learn to meditate, and I did not anticipate what happened to me happening. but it was extraordinary. And I walked out of that retreat really focused on psychology, wanting to understand more about psychology, wanting to understand more about neuroscience, and having this heartfelt intention that I wanted everyone to be able to feel the way that I felt. I wanted to be accessible to everyone, and which specifically was I was happier than I'd ever been, and I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of anything. I, now know it's because I had a really big drop in rumination, that internal chatter. But at the time, it just was like a profoundly different way of experiencing reality. And with that, because I had a background in technology and understood how technology can help scale things, and I thought, well, not everybody can make it to a meditation retreat. Not everybody can take the time off to spend time meditating at a retreat. How would you be able to make that accessible and affordable and scalable, that ability to feel that way? And so that was my personal story about how I got on this path. And now 4 years later, we have the largest conference in the space, and we just started our academy, which has people in 69 countries and 450 cities, who are all people who are working on creating products that can support the mental and emotional well-being of human beings.
That is so quintessential, Nichol, to making it scalable, making it accessible, giving people what you know in your heart feels right for you, sharing that wisdom with others. And just what I so admire about you, and why I love calling you a friend, to be honest, is that you see people's hearts, and you also give them full latitude, bringing all of these creators and innovators together without ego, with such love to really think tank together. So anyone out there who wants to put their technology to beautiful well-being of humanity, please look up Transformative Tech Lab. Nichol, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry to be so quick, but we've got an incredible panel here. We love you, Nichol. Godspeed.
Love you too. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Mwah. We have another incredible guest right now, live from Vatican City. And how many people can say that, live from Vatican City? We have an amazing woman who has dedicated her life toward the compassion of helping others. She's been sent by the Vatican to the Congo, the largest rape and violent areas. She's now working in Uganda. We have Sister Sheila Kinsey. Sister Sheila, are you there? Yes, there's Sister Sheila. Sister Sheila, I was hoping that you could share with everybody your personal your call, and how you came to your service to God. It would be a beautiful awakening for many.
I would like to start with an event that happened after Vatican II. It was a time when many religious women had looked at what they were doing in terms of teaching other things related to the institutional work, and some did to get involved. I was the teacher, and I had experience. And the idea of getting involved in domestic violence and sexual abuse was something I thought I could do, and the community at that time supported me in that effort. But as time went on and I was working with these women and the children, I noticed in myself that I had an ability to identify with them and to be close to their experience in a way that I really questioned, how could I get there? What was there about my experience that led me to be able to journey so closely with those who were victims both of domestic abuse and sexual assault? So I asked my parents, what was in my background? What happened to me when I was little? And they decided that they would come and tell me a little bit about my early upbringing. And I come to find out that my mother had come from a domestic violence home. And for 2.5 years, my early years, I was in that same environment because my father had been in the service. We were there, parents. And come to find out as they were telling the story that there were incidences, not that I was, but I could remember being yelled at and having just little space to move around. There were certain things that were limiting for me. Forever abused. So it was really very heartwarming to know that experience that I had in the past would help me the ministry that I have found important. I have been involved for 8 years, specifically in shelter work. And I have gone on since then to even work in justice and peace and care for the integrity of here in Rome with other religious men and women. And we've been in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda, working and helping religious become compassionate companions to persons who are dealing in areas of. So it's interesting, I would tell my story about that you could reach us, develop something called integrity on violence. So we need to be able to work with where people are in order to journey with them. And from that process, I developed 4 values. First is just being respectful, creating respect, honoring the dignity of the person, and have a safe environment. The second was practicing honesty, to be truthful, and to really go deep within ourselves to see what is it that is our true calling? What is it that really gives us a passion? The other area was promoting justice, to integrate accountability and responsibility and negotiate in a way that's fair. And the last one was really looking at wholesome relationships, develop trust. What are some behaviors that we can look at that show that you can count on us to be a trustworthy person? And then finally, to have the adequate resources. How could we need education? We need to have the tools to do our job. And see, so many of this is applicable in many of the areas that we work in justice and peace. When you look at the mining situations, we look at the food waste that we have. There's just so many things that we need to pay attention to. So then you may say, well, then as religious is a deeper call. That is a way of life. And I think what Father Rupe, a Jesuit, said long ago speaks so deeply to my heart, is that fall in love and stay in love, because that determines what you do, how you spend your time, who you are associating with, what you are reading, because that really makes the difference. And I have to say, in working as I do, in justice and peace and care for the integrity of creation, every day there's something new to see what it is that would be my part to be involved in and to care and to try to make the world a better place as we reach out for all those areas in need.
Oh, Sister Sheila, that was beautiful. And I want to share with you and everyone out there how much you've touched my life. Every time I get on the phone with Sister Sheila, I get this waft of angelic, divine nectar that fills me with chills. And I don't want to take that lightly, that I feel like when you're in grace, you really do have punctuation, and that part of the app is to open up our intuition, operate from that high part of the brain where one can, in the parietal lobe, there was research done on nuns and monks and all the beautiful master meditators that not only did it reverse aging and lower blood pressure and give you less inflammation, but meditation allows you to reach that place of what we call the neuroscience of peace. in the parietal lobe, we're able to feel that unity and oneness, that sense of well-being.
Mhm.
And why Sister Sheila and I came together, and another panel member who will be on soon helped give us that gift of each other, was that in trauma, when one has been hurt deeply, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, their lower primitive brain hijacks that high functioning executive part of the brain, that part of the brain that allows us to get to peace, that place of connection to whatever we call our sense of the divine. And Sister Sheila has been working in Uganda and, as we said, the Congo. And I think, Sister Sheila, if you could speak a little about that, you know, why they have wanted that place
Well,
inside of them.
I think the reason why the religious men and women were involved is that it's become known that in those areas or areas of conflict, they have been considered the most trusted persons. So not only taking the faith dimension is very important to know how to compassion and listen to people, it's having to learn some of the skills in terms of how do you listen in terms of investigating and recording information, but how do you then the persons to make the decisions that they need to be making and to be comfortable with those decisions. So the training has been subsidized by some government resources to help us then become more professionally skilled in an area where we bring a very strong faith dimension. And so integrating that in our lives in a way now that we see is kind of like a frontier. You know, these are areas that are needing our attention, and we need to be involved in that. And really empathetic listening to the person as they tell their story and feel that they are valued and feel that they have something to contribute, that experience does not have to label them. And I have to say, when I was in Uganda, I had shown them a part of that app, kind of an experimental piece to show them how that could work. And it was kind of a preparation, kind of after a long day, to help quiet ourselves and to be attentive to what was going on inside of us so that we could move forward in a way of prayerful receptivity to the Spirit moving. And it was that looking at the different movements that they saw also would be very helpful for victims in trauma, which they are working with, who have no words to say, but need to have some way to engage that deeper part of themselves. So that's so important. And many of the persons who are working with us as religious have been themselves persons who have been witnesses of terrible, terrible violence, have been caretakers of persons who have been so damaged, but not in a way that could not be recovered. So it was giving them the energy and the capability to respond in the spirit of which we have, you know, walking with Christ, to meet the other person in a way what's ours to do. So it's been a good working for us to see how we can connect with the spiritual dimension and promote a legal dimension that looks at those kinds of criminal activities, sexual abuse, will have consequences. And there's not impunity just because there are conflicts. So that's what's carried us forward to see that we are indeed trying to make a difference in an area that's sorely in need.
We are going to come in to support your work, Sister Sheila. We believe in you wholeheartedly. The foundation to curing trauma, if there is a cure, or is to really value, see, hear, and understand the person who's gone through that pain, because that perception of pain runs deep in their psyche and their soul. And we have found that often a spiritual intervention of their belief system works. Sister Sheila, thank you. I want to run the video that you met Seth Blaustein at the top of the show, worked for us. It's amazing. It shows in just a matter of minutes what the app does. Please stay tuned. It's free. It's free to the privileged world right now in the name of World Peace Day, and it will remain free because we couldn't figure out a way to make you pay for your inner peace. Please stay tuned. matter of minutes how big a mission this is. That when you give yourself that moment to pause for your cause, and then you place that moment of inner peace on a world map, you actually shift consciousness. Please do not underestimate your own value in shifting consciousness. The act of doing it for yourself, and then it becomes for the we. The me, we, the love of self and other at the same time is the way we're going to change the world. Often when we've been really hurt, we either out the other person, or we become a doormat. Making that dance available to love yourself and not taking yourself out of the equation while you're loving another is the journey of life. And that moment to pause and inner reflect is more to me than just mindfulness. It's that place in your brain where you're inquiring from on high, your highest self, that which is there for the highest good of you, and trust that the highest good of you is the highest good of all. Can receive information, intuitive information, messages or knowings, gut knowings, dreams, punctuations from chills, high-pitched tones in your ear. That opening up of that place that's highly intuitive in you will give you inner stability and inner knowing. See without your eyes, hear without your ears. Sister Sheila talked about the importance of trauma and being seen, heard, valued, and understood. With that mission to ease human suffering, hearglobal.org, and we want you to remember that, hearglobal.org, in order to download the app or in order to donate. In the back of the app is a donation page. Where your donation dollars go is to cultures around the globe that have requested us to come in and culturally sensitize the app with their leaders' words, their prayers, their music, their faces, to be able to share the gamification, not have the people under duress of trauma feel like they're one down, feel like they're a victim. The game takes them to a reset in their brain where they can self-reflect. People who are traumatized cannot sit still. If they are in a place to sit still or reflect or calm their mind, it actually re-triggers a new trauma state, because the last time that that person was undefended made them a victim. So there's muscle memory. We anchor them and ground them through swiping and staring games that will help them get to that place of no defenses, but unity and trust. Our next guest is Spencer Gerrol, who is the founder and CEO of Spark Neuro. Spencer has made incredible advancements in understanding human emotion and the duration of those feelings within one, and he's helped many media companies find that place of their sweet spot. But his real core heart is to help humanity with the knowing of his research. Please, Spencer, would you come on and talk about what you do and the intergenerational informed place of your heart?
Absolutely, Laurie. It's good to see you.
It's so good to see you. I love this man.
The feeling is mutual. What I want to talk about, and you're queuing me up as well to speak a little bit about my family history, and if there's time, I'd love to dig into that. What I think is important from the angle from which I'm coming is to look at meditation as a cognitive science practice. A lot of the people involved in this whole event and this panel are looking at meditation really as a spiritual practice. And it absolutely is. It is for many people. When I think of meditation, I've been practicing meditation for about 12 years. I have spent a lot of time studying the actual neuroscience behind it and what is really happening in your brain and how that all works. And so when I say that I had an epiphany moment, it wasn't being connected in some really spiritual way. My epiphany moment was reading the right scientific journals and reading the right scientific arguments that actually explain a little bit more about what's happening. And that's the angle that I come here to speak about today. My biggest epiphany was when I read some work by a scientist named Damasio. Antonio Damasio had a patient in the mid-90s that went by the pseudonym Elliot. And Elliot had a tumor in his ventromedial prefrontal cortex. It's an important part of your brain. And what happened was Elliot couldn't make decisions. And so the natural thing for people to think was that, well, Elliot must have lost in this area of his prefrontal cortex this rational ability to make decisions. But in fact, what Damasio discovered as a neuroscientist was something else was happening. So when we think about the decisions that we make every day, the components of how we feel and how we interact with the world around us as we go about our daily lives, you might ask, what is a more valuable decision to make? Is it an emotional decision? Is that emotional decision actually a good thing? Or is that damaging? Or is it a rational decision? Should we really be making more rational decisions? And I was recently speaking in front of an audience of 400 people, and I asked the audience, what's better? Should you be making rational decisions or emotional decisions? When I asked them to raise their hands, every single person in the audience raised their hand that a rational decision was a better decision to make. And I'm going to tie this back to how this all works in meditation, because it turns out that the one person who raised their hand and said, actually, an emotional decision is a better decision to make, was more right than the other 399 people in the room. And here's how that works. If you look at what happened in the brain of Damasio's patient, he lost the ability to feel emotion. He lost the ability to connect with what you might call your gut or your instincts, or whatever other terminology you might use to consider that little thing that's guiding you when you're not actually making a pro and con list. And what would happen is if you actually wanted to make any decision in your life with a rational thought process, you would be cognitively overloaded. Your working memory would fail to be able to really make any decisions at all. And so we use this shortcut. We use these heuristics. We use our emotions in order to guide us to say, this is what I should order off the menu. This is what I should do with my day. And so the emotional part of decision-making is absolutely core to being able to live a full and happy and healthy life. And yet, we are all very disconnected from our emotions. I've spent many years understanding and looking into how it is that emotion is so subconscious and it's not something that we really fully understand. And it turns out that what meditation is really doing is allowing you to shut off parts of your conscious brain and allows more of your subconscious to be really hyperactive during those periods of time. And in that activity of letting your subconscious roam free, even beyond what you're aware of, you're actually allowing those deeper emotions, deeper insights come out in a way that really helps you live your life. That's why it makes you healthier. That's why it makes you make better decisions. That's how it helps you be more creative. That's how it helps you deal with trauma. And so what I love about what you've done, Laurie, and I've been using it myself, I got an early release so that I could start to play with it, is I've been using the Here app, and I've been using it and I've gained really one important thing from it. And that is that even though I've been practicing meditation for a dozen years, and I should be doing it twice a day, the secret is I actually don't always get to it. Even as somebody who's trained in doing it, I don't always get to it because there's always something a little bit intimidating. And what you've done, Laurie, is you've brought this into a format where whether you've had masterful teachers or not, whether you have the habits or don't, you can easily access really good meditation. And so I've been using it myself, even despite all of my training in meditation and understanding the science of meditation, because it has made it more accessible to me to be able to do more regularly.
Wow. Thank you. Because because you got an advanced copy, you may not even know this, but Spencer, you can go and put through on each day of the week a toggle switch to remind you, a push notification, what time you may choose. Okay, good. So
and I love that, because that's one of the things that I personally struggle with is creating the structures in my life to make sure that I'm doing what I know is right for my mental health, physical health. And so those little cues, those push notifications are going to give me those prompts that say, okay, now it's time. Shut off your conscious mind. Let your subconscious and emotions do their thing and play out all of the creativity and peace that I can have in my life.
Do I have your permission to share a teeny bit as I say goodbye to you? Because I'm going to need to bring in the next guest, and I don't want you to feel it abrupt. I want it to feel loving. Is it okay if I share a little about the intergenerational?
To do whatever you think is going to be most valuable for the people listening.
I love you. Spencer Gerrol is one of the true beautiful souls on this planet, and I want everyone to know about Spark Neuro. Look it up if you have any desire to make your career into technology. His company is stellar, high integrity, and the pledge is to take all the research that he's about to find. He's working with millions of people, so the cohort is huge and the data will be amazing to understand the impact of emotions and the retention of emotion and fear and all of those beautiful things that can help Alzheimer's and help Parkinson's. So please, go to Spark Neuro website and contact Spencer if you want a really wonderful man to helm your next stage in life. All right, I'm going to have to say goodbye, Spencer, but I'm going to keep talking about Spencer. Spencer had a intergenerational trauma, much like I was born Jewish. Spencer we're Jewish, and there's, with all religions that have an immigration story, famines, pogroms, being forced out, slavery, whatever is your intergenerational trauma. Perhaps your mother wanted a girl and you were a boy. Perhaps there was economic instability. Perhaps there was divorce or mental illness or all kinds of abuses. We know what's going on in the news today. We need to look and in a scouring way to say, look, we have emotional issues that are embedded into our DNA. And the reason why it was so important to hear Spencer talk about the brain and emotion was that the gift behind the Here app and the games is it integrates right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain. That cross-hemispheric communication takes one out of solely the right brain, where someone has deep wounds embedded into memory in their nervous system, or out of solely the left brain, where someone is analytical and somewhat detached, and integrates them both to get you to that high brain where one might really resource whatever your definition of source is, to resource, to reboot, to recalibrate. Our next guest is a woman who's had enormous amounts of pain in her life, stuff that one would never want for anybody else, but is brave enough to come forward. Her foundation and how she heard her call to give compassion to others is Jacqueline Miller. She's the CEO and founder of Partnerships for Change. She's a radical badass who goes and stomps on the floors of any community that needs help. Jacqueline, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Laurie. How are you?
We're good. We're good. And we're helping people understand trauma and how that is a foundation to get to inner peace.
Absolutely.
So will you help us get there?
Well, Laurie, I just want to salute you and your wonderful husband, Jerry, for all you do for so many people in the world. I am thrilled about the app here and have been very, very guided by here. And it's helped me personally on so many levels and everyone I share it with. So thank you so much. A little bit about why I really love your app and what it's done for me personally. I had started an organization 25 years ago called Partnerships for Change. We're an NGO and we're based in the Presidio of San Francisco, California. We are dedicated to advancing compassion and abolishing cruelty. One of the things that I just recently, and only within the last 8 months or so, felt free to come forward with is the reason why the last 25 years have been dedicated to helping victims of trauma, victims of rape, spousal abuse, self-abuse, low self-esteem. One of the things we're really proud of is that in the early 90s, we saw that there was such an appalling lack of self-esteem and self-worth with kids in school. It was affecting learning. With people in the workplace, they were afraid to risk being wrong or raising their hands for projects. They were committing suicide. Murder is still the #1 cause of death in the workplace. So we looked at all these issues and then went from the workplace to the individual to global issues of trauma and systemic issues. That led us to doing a number of books, but mainly documentaries on rape, military sexual assault, rape on the college campus. And I just tell you this background of mine in the work and as we're called to be our purpose and to live our higher purpose is because my story personally is that I am a victim of rape. I was drugged and raped by several men in my late teens, and then got into an extremely abusive relationship that was emotionally and physically abusive, that led to a string of really bad relationships that I would overcome with high achievement in the workplace and the world. But I just share this with you because I'm not alone. And the tragedy here is that 1 out of every 2 people have had these same horrific, tragic experiences. We kind of joke that we look at ourselves as now the traumas are us, or Toys R Us. You can come to us for just about every trauma that there is, and someone on our team has that experience. But I really want to point to something that Sister Sheila said earlier, that there is an instinctive trust that comes from the victim of trauma or rape with those that we're administering to, that we're bringing health and healing and love to, that they tend to trust us. So that just brings me to the message of what the abuse is about, is that our purpose is really set by the things that happen to us. And there's an old sage that you always can go to your wounds to find your purpose. And I can't get over the wonderful divine providence of meeting Sister Sheila at the Vatican, but then all the wonderful people that we're all led to, like Laurie. You're amazing, and your wonderful panel here, just gathering together to help heal the wounds and help people get on their way, because mental health, there is no health without mental health, and there's such an incredible tsunami heading our way with the abuse, the violence, the drugs. There's right now $195 billion loss of income due to people that have mental health and cannot be treated in America alone. And then there are 200 million in India. The point here is that there are not enough therapists, sociologists, psychotherapists to go around to treat this tsunami. And that's why I just really have to salute here and Laurie Zapp, because this is the technology is the only way that we're going to be able to reach all the people out there that need this. and to be culturally sensitive and appropriate. It's time. This is the only way, unfortunately, unless we can figure out how to clone Sister Sheila and have about 500 billion of her, then we could reach people from warm hand to warm hand and heart to heart. But here is really the next best thing. In November of last year, I was invited to speak at the World Congress on Mental Health in New Delhi, and it was a gathering of 60 countries and psychiatrists from all various backgrounds, and they came together for the first time in India, and they talked about the horrible state and the volume and the millions and millions of people that need help, and that they're feeling very, very apathetic and at a loss on how to reach them. That's why a complementary app like here is so critical, to be able to complement what they want to do to help and heal so many, and that we want to do here. So I just want to give a shout out to wonderful Jerry and Laurie and all the great work out there. And if we can help you at Partnerships for Change, our website is partnershipsforchange.org. And we'd love to hear from you and be able to spread here and also include other technologies as well that can help with depression and schizophrenia and specific mental illnesses. And I also want to say that trust, as everyone has said before me, is key. It's so important. And when we have trust, which is such a missing ingredient this day in this world, I think that's the key. So I just honor all of you and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. Jackie does amazing work with the Vatican as well, and hospitals in Liberia. She's a documentarian, and we so grateful that you are here, and thank you for acknowledging Jerry, who's home listening. So Jerry, we love you. What Jackie brought up, which is incredibly important, is that trauma is something that really needs to be addressed in a deep way. And we've been invited culturally to sensitively address and start a curriculum with their mental health professionals, if they have any at all, into Amma's hospitals and schools. No, well, she does, but into schools in India. We've been invited into the sex trafficking minor population in India to help them with the app and ameliorate trauma. We've been invited into our USA for foster care and Somali populations and Native American populations. We've been invited into Iraq through the Yazidi population to work with the children there. Please, if you have the ability, do not feel anything but just if you have the ability, and you go and download the app for free that we are gifting you for your own inner peace as the privileged with smart devices. Won't you see it in your heart to go to either hereglobal.org or the back of the app and download a donation for us to get into these cultures. Many of them don't believe in mental health. They don't have the practitioners. They don't have the tools. We can offer up Wi-Fi devices, curriculums. So I appreciate you greatly. And I want to go into our next guest. Give me 1 second. This is a very important guest to me. She's a very close friend. And the lead into bringing Yolaine Stout on deck is that Yolaine is the past president of IONS, which is the International Association Study of Near-Death Experiences, and the founder and past CEO of ACISTE, the American Center of the Integration of Spiritually Transformative Experiences. She is committed to understanding how a spiritually transformative experience can help you through your trauma, that many people who are not aware or not listening to their highest self will have a near-death experience or a upside the head moment, or a revelatory moment that is of high reverie, to get them to understand how to bypass themselves out of their trauma into healing. So I would love to invite Yolaine Stout to talk now about her personal journey of how she heard her call and how she began to put all this goodness into the world. Yolaine, I love you.
I love you too, Laurie. I love you and Jerry and all that you do and have done for this world with your app. And you're just an amazing fireball of wonder that I keep looking to for inspiration again and again and again. I can't tell you how much I love you. So thank you for this opportunity to share what we've learned. Yes. Yeah, so I am, as Laurie said, I'll start with my calling, how it led me to found this organization. I was depressed, severely depressed in 1982. So I was dealing with my own personal traumas and wanted to kill myself. I committed or attempted suicide and had, instead of ending my life and my pain, I had a near-death experience. And that completely changed my paradigm. I had never heard of such a thing. I'd never had such an experience was more real than this reality here. Life, by comparison, is an illusion for me ever since, and for a lot of experience as well. So after this, you talk about the cosmic 2x4. Yeah, that was it. That was it. That completely changed my paradigm inside out, upside down. It caused me to question everything. And it took a long time to integrate this. And what I learned from the experience led me to founding ACISTE. And that is that, one, every life is precious. Every life form, every rock, everybody is precious and loved with complete unconditional love. And if we love ourselves, we recognize that we are loved, then we can go forward with love and fulfill our purpose. So that's the second thing I realized. Was told actually to not waste my life thinking I wasn't loved. I was told that. And so that one sentence by itself meant, I have a purpose of some kind, and I'm responsible for my own happiness. If I am wasting my life, I'm not the victim of external circumstances. I am not the victim of anything. I create my own, I'm in charge of creating my own happiness. And finding that happiness is really about finding me, finding your passion, finding your talents, finding all those feelings, those emotions that make you feel good and make you feel connected. And I find that many people that I've met who've been depressed since then, really my common denominator about that is that they're disconnected from their spiritual selves, which causes them to be disconnected from their emotional selves. So it's a process of reconnecting with those higher spiritual values within. So it's exceedingly important to find your purpose, which I feel is taking you, all your passions, all of your talents, and loving yourself as a gift to this planet, loving yourself out of love, for love, in service to the rest of humanity. So that was a tall order, kiddo. And what I realized, I wasn't alone with these experiences, and started meeting experiencers and reading books about other people. I go, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who's had this experience. And so because I struggled after my NDE, I couldn't talk about it for 20 years. And a lot of people struggle with You don't realize, one person pointed out in the chat room prior to me coming on, is there such a thing as a positive trauma? Well, I can definitely say yes, there is. There's a positive trauma which causes you to rethink everything else, but physical trauma, emotional trauma pales by comparison to the spiritual experience and the power it has on your life. And of course, the way to access that is through meditation, through reconnecting. And this is where your app is so important, to help you reconnect with those emotions and that spiritual side. So
thank you. I want to love on you for a second, because we have to move on. And before you go, I just want everyone to know that, yes, a lot of times our trauma informs our purpose. And that's why Hear Your Call is so important, what Yolaine alluded to. But ACISTE is for those of us who have had spiritually transformative experiences where we didn't have the ability to tell somebody, where we didn't have somebody who would support that. When you thought you were crazy, when you didn't know where to go, ACISTE trains peers as well as mental health professionals to be able to be more sensitive to those people who have those experiences. Oftentimes, westernized modern psychotherapy disavowed disassociations or derealizations or self-referencing dreams, where it is possible for God to come to you and you not be in a delusion or a hallucination or any other negative part of whatever they want to tag on to you. So please, if you've got an interest in what Yolaine is doing, look at the ACISTE website, ACISTE. Yolaine, I love you. We've got to say goodbye and just inform these beautiful people for another moment about trauma gets in the way of your insight. It gets in the way of you finding your purpose. It gets in the way of you having the ability to really get to that highest self. And so many that are on the front lines of trauma, including the first responders who have vicarious trauma, need your help. We've been invited in by the largest trauma treatment organization in the US, Safe Horizons, to be able to help. We have a pilot study with NYU. We would love your money, please, your support, to be able to help complete that study. We did a study with the Meredith Corporation. We got double-digit advancements, taking the bottom out of suicidality, lower levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. We got them to self-report that they felt an overall sense of well-being. They enjoyed their job more. They had more connection to their coworkers. We know this as validation from our study on the app alone, but there's been 20 years of research on what the app gives you. It's just a packaged way for you to bypass all of your old wounds, unwanted defense mechanisms, and realize a ritualized way that you can get to your higher brain quicker. He's a producer for hearglobal.org. He is a close friend and a humanitarian to a great proportion. I am not coming back on. You've got 2 minutes to close us out. Mikuak, I love you. Kill it.
Okay, well, let's not kill it. Let's revive it. But certainly, I just want to commend all the speakers who have gone in advance in this hour, in the Hear Your Call hour. And I think the main thing here is that we want to impress upon people the value, the importance of hearing one's call, that even in the hour and the segment leading up to our offering today, a lot of what Donald Neil Walsh was sharing in terms of those conversations with God is that there is only one thing. There's only one of us here, and we're all a part of this in our many fragmented ways, in our unique expressions of the one. And the opportunity before us now, particularly in light of this world peace moment, is how to tap in with oneself to hear one's unique call. And I think that that's a very special relationship that one is inclined to have with themselves, to begin to see themselves the way that God sees them. In other words, to see ourselves through the eyes of love is what can help settle the various energies and the various influences that we come here with. I mean, we heard a bit about the intergenerational trauma. And we've all come here with what I like to call the tumbling DNA effect. When we begin to listen to our own call, it also impacts the lineage that we are a part of, in the fact that we afford the opportunity for our ancestors, for the ones before us, to also, because they're a part of us, there's only one thing. So as they are a part of us, then they are also afforded the chance to evolve and to grow in that love and in that spirit, in that presence. I know that hearing your call is absolutely facilitated with use of the app. And I definitely want to encourage people out there, again, as Laurie has stated, we've been invited to introduce the app into different populations. And we need the support of people out here everywhere. I think also the fact that this is a gift to humanity. Humanity confided in themselves to pay that gift forward and help share the value of the science that this app provides for people who are in deep trauma. And you can visit hereglobal.org to learn more about that. And as Laurie also mentioned, making a donation in the back page of the app itself. Download the app for free, begin to put it to use, and you will begin to see the impact it can have. And I like to think of it as you get to access the higher function with feeling. So it's both the left and right hemispheres of the brain and how we can access that in higher function with feeling, because the emotions are an important teacher. It's an important compass for us to trust our feelings, to trust that, but to trust it from within, to trust it as you've had a chance to be still and know. And so that's the invitation here. And it's been an honor to also share this space with Unify Worldwide in this World Peace broadcast. And on behalf of Here Global and the human family, just saying peace and blessings to you, and happy to be on the planet at this most auspicious time. May we all hear our call and come to that center knowing and that inner knowing. Peace and blessings.